Well, we're going to kick off with a little bit of a talk about politics as we run up to the election. And what better place to start than a picture with Rishi himself. So this is from the Tory party website. He's looking very slick and relaxed, no tie, of course, because that helps him appear as to be one of the ordinary people in UK, even though there's billions in the background with his family. But this is how the Tories are pushing forward for the election. And we have a look at a bit more of the detail. It says if we want to change our country, we have to change the way we do politics. Well, I certainly agree we need to change the way we do politics. And we're going to try and show our viewers and listeners today a little bit about the reality of politics in the UK. But he says for the last 30 years, politicians have resorted to short-term political decision-making, taking the easy way out rather than fixing the underlying problems. I'm going to say, to me, the underlying problem is the fact that we have a political system which is rotten. He says, as Prime Minister, I will make the hard but necessary long-term decisions to get the country on the right path for a brighter future. Well, of course, the country's been broken by the political system itself, but he's apparently going to halve inflation. That'll be interesting because he's not in control of the banks. He's going to grow the economy. That'll be very interesting because he doesn't want to support businesses. He's going to reduce debt. Well, again, he doesn't control the banks, so that's not going to happen. And he's going to cut waiting lists to get people the care they need more quickly. This is coming from a political party that's worked hard to destroy the NHS system. And he's going to stop the boats, even though the boats are only here because of failures of migration policy within both Conservative and the Labour government. But if we move on through, this is how the website looks. It's very clean and bright and clear. And that's appropriate because they've got a clear plan of bold action for a secure future. That means that they've stirred up wars, particularly now in the Middle East and with the Russians. And so they're going to have to deal with that, but they're making progress. But the key thing is they never say where that progress is ultimately going to lead to. And I'm going to suggest it's a global agenda. It's not to do with national politics. But if you want the real detail, it's here. Clear plan, bold action, secure future. This almost takes us back to COVID-19 lockdown with a three-phrase mantra: clear plan, bold action, secure future. And of course, if we have a look at the detail here, they're going to raise defence spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2030. But we're also going to introduce national service for 18-year-olds. We're going to see the Rwanda plan through. We're going to deal with inflation. We're going to abolish national insurance. We're going to fix the NHS. We're going to guarantee a pension triple lock. And we're going to double free childcare. That's if they're not stealing your children in the first place. So it's pretty slick from the Tories. Not a lot of detail on how these things are going to be done. But of course, we're back to promises to the general public. And then if we go Labour, well, Labour is a lot simpler to understand because it's to do with kissing babies. And here's Keir Starmer cuddling a toddler. Would I allow my child to be cuddled by Keir Starmer? I think not. I don't trust him in any shape or form. But of course, what is he up to? Well, our mission is driven government. Our mission-driven government will restore pride and purpose in our country. And on Thursday, the 4th of July, he can make this a reality together. It's time to be part of a change. But of course, the change and more change that the political parties are talking about ultimately leads us to a state of ever changing, and that is indeed revolution. And UK Column has warned on a number of occasions that what we're really dealing with is a political system that is designed to create breakdown and chaos to bring in complete revolutionary change. And it was only a few days ago on the UK Column News that we talked about Eric Pickles, former Communities Minister, actually saying he was an unlikely revolutionary, but the revolution started with him. So encourage people to do some checking up. But let's have a look at the power behind the throne. And of course, the politicians on either side are just the political puppets. We'll bring in the key players, Rishi and, of course, Keir Starmer. But the power is in the wings. It's the party funders for the Conservatives, lots of embarrassment with Russian money. It's the power of the whips. It's the power of the BBC and the mainstream media who only support the key parties. And it's to do with the power of Israel and friends of Israel. And ultimately now we've got the pressure of war. It's exactly the same system on the Labour side. And the one we'll bring in that covers both of them is the Remembrancer. And we'll be talking about the Remembrancer in a bit, but essentially this is the power base of the City of London in Westminster itself. Let's have a look, though, at the whips and how they function. We've got a couple of little video clips here.
When MPs vote in the House of Commons, they almost always vote the same way as their party. It's the job of the party whips to make sure this happens. But recently the whip's power has come under threat, and record numbers of MPs have rebelled against their own party. The most rebellious MPs have become known as the Awkward Squad. One such member is the Tory Peter Bone. Since the last election, he's voted against the government nearly 150 times.
When there's a division bell rings in the House of Commons, there are 600 MPs who are going to vote. Most MPs have no idea what's being debated in the House of Commons, and they turn up and the whips tell them which lobby to go through.
The whip's job is to keep their MPs united behind the party leader and to quell rebellions by the independent-minded.
Food labelling. Now, this is our policy, so if a vote is called, we expect that everybody will be able to participate in that, and if necessary, we'll put tellers in.
So the man claims the MPs don't know what they're voting for, and I think he's right, and they're controlled. Let's have a look at how that clip on the whips progressed.
The whips like to keep secret the way they work. But the Labour Chief Whip, Rosie Winterton, has invited us into her lair.
So this is the Opposition Chief Whip's office, and there's the whip. It's good, isn't it? I only use it on the members when they're especially well behaved. I haven't actually murdered anybody yet. There are no thumb screws in here, as you will have probably noticed. Well, I'll get them out later if you want. So, you know, the popular image is of rather a sinister operation, whereas actually what we do like to do is to convince people because we think the arguments are right.
So it was the smirk on her face that did it for me. She knows full well the power of the whips and what they actually do. But if our viewers and listeners are not convinced today, let's have a look at a third clip from the BBC themselves about another whip within the Conservative Party. Let's listen to what he has to say about how the system works.
The government whips build up dossiers of information, both political and personal, about their flocks. And the whips also act as a kind of welfare agency for MPs. One Tory whip claims they perform 1,000 acts of unremarked kindness each year for Tory MPs who face personal problems.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble would come to the whips and tell them the truth. They'd say, no, I'm in a jam, can you help? It might be debt, it might be scandal involving small boys, or any kind of scandal which a member seemed likely to be mixed up in. They'd come and ask if we could help. And if we could, we did. And we would do everything we can, because we would store up brownie points. That sounds a pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons. Is if we can get a chap out of trouble, then he'll do as we ask forevermore.
So there we have a whip calmly talking about blackmail, the blackmailing of members of parliaments in order to get them to do as they want. The key question is, who is they? Let's just have a look at this. We'll have to save the detail for another day. But of course, we need to have a look at where the money comes from for the parties, because invariably the people who fund the parties control the party system at all, control the whole party system, so they have the power base, and we need to follow this through. But we'll come on to that for another day. We'll just end this segment with this little video clip of Rishi talking about Israel.
I want to thank you for your solidarity, your clear, unwavering support from the minute this war began. I think the fact that you came to Israel tells us a lot. I said to President Biden yesterday that there's one thing more heartwarming than standing with Israel, it's standing in Israel. And the fact that you came here to do that is a very strong statement of support, which we deeply appreciate.
So I can now ask the key question, to whom does Rishi owe loyalty, the people of UK or Israel? Are we to know? And if we're concerned about the situation with the Tories, then it's the same with Labour. An article from The Standard here, one of the main reasons why Keir Starmer is standing firm on Israel, his family, the Labour leader's resolution will be stiffened by having a Jewish wife and relatives. So what is the truth? What do these people really believe? We have no idea. But of course, we see powerful people in the wings. And are they always our